You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it Locked On Wildcats. I'm your host, Mike Luke. All right, lots to get to today. It is a Friday evening, obviously, so got a lot to get to. Talk a little bit about what's going to be going on this weekend, and let's see. And quite frankly, we're going to talk obviously a little bit of U of A hoops as well. But let's start talking about what Arizona basketball needs to do in the transfer portal. Now, first and foremost, you need to be able to find, and you're going to see this, I think you're going to see some multiple names coming in here very soon. But Arizona needs to get a big man, multiple big men, and Arizona also needs to find something on the perimeter that you can find that will be able to accentuate Kerr Kriisa's strengths while eliminating some of his weaknesses. Now, the first thing that you're going to look for is you're going to want somebody who is athletic. Now, a lot of people are wondering, is this person in the transfer portal? Is he? Keep in mind, they don't necessarily need to be in the transfer portal exclusively. They could have declared for the NBA draft. Something to keep an eye on right there. So that's what you're looking at right there. Somebody that's maybe had been in a major school, somebody that could essentially replace that Justin Kier role right there is what you're looking at. And I can't really say any names, but there are some names out there. Now, some of the big men that you're looking at, and one of the big men that you're looking at is the big man from Washington State. Now, I'm not going to be breaking any news here because, quite frankly, he's put out there that he is going to be he's going to be transferring. He's a guy that if you're a good school, you're going to be looking at because it's quite simple. He can give you about 10 points, 7 or 8 rebounds, and he can block a few shots while he's at it. He's that type of dude. When I look at him, I think of a guy that would probably step in and start immediately. I'm a big fan of Oumar Ballo. Everybody out there knows it. If you're not a big fan of Oumar Ballo, you need to check yourself because Oumar Ballo is the man. But if you can get a little bit more athletic, a little bit more dynamic in there, along with the progression of Oumar Ballo, that makes things a lot easier. And I think that's what you're looking at. If you're an Arizona fan, at least that's what I know that I am looking at. Okay, now, overseas. They're not done recruiting internationally yet. I mean, you've probably seen some names out there. I'm not going to throw any names out there specifically, but Arizona's got their name and got their hands in a bunch of different cookie jars, I guess, for lack of a better term. And I don't see that one really stopping. You're going to see a team a drastically different team. But when you talk to people around the program, I think they believe that generally this can be a top 10, top 15 team next year. And, let's be honest, you're Arizona basketball. That's what you're aiming for. You're aiming for a top 10. You're aiming for a top 15 type team. That's what you want to try to find right there. And there's no reason that Arizona can't do it. Now, one thing that you also need to keep in mind is the GetUpside app. A lot of people are wondering, all right, so what's going on with gas prices? Get the GetUpside app, and then you put in code word SCORE for college, and you can get some really good deals right there. Everybody knows how expensive gas is right now. Make it happen. Check out GetUpside. We'll be right back with you. Thanks for keeping it Locked On Wildcats. I'm your host, Mike Luke. All right, we talked a little bit of Arizona basketball. Now let's talk about where they factor into the conference next year because there's a lot of moving parts. UCLA, most people feel like this year should be the best team in the conference because you're returning Tiger Campbell, you're returning Jaime Jaquez. Yes, you lost Cody Riley, and yes, you lost Miles Johnson, but those aren't real difference makers. You can bring in guys like – trying to think. You can bring it. You've been able to bring in like a guy like got a five-star big coming in from California who should be able to replace some of that scoring, some of that defense. But this team is going to revolve around a lot of the guys that you would expect to come back, including somebody they're bringing in, one Amari Bailey, 5-star wing, who's been essentially at the top of the college basketball world for the last, 10 years, something like that. Amari Bailey is certainly somebody to keep an eye on, because you're looking then at the lineup of Tiger Campbell, Amari Bailey, Jaime Jaquez, depending on what Jules Bernard does. I'm kind of the opinion that Johnny Juzang stays in the draft, but this is a team that's going to be very talented top to bottom. Then another team to keep an eye on clearly is Oregon. Oregon was weird because they had certainly a disappointing year last year. I don't think there's any doubt about that, but you also have a team and a program that history will show you that Dana Altman's teams are generally going to be pretty good. I don't expect a 2-year slump. Now, it's going to be interesting to see what they do, though, because you got N'Faly Dante coming back. He's a very good big man. You're also bringing in Kel'el Ware, who is one of the better bigs in the entire country, one of the better players in the entire country. I think he's number 6 in 24/7's rankings. If you get Will Richardson back, you've also brought in a Keyshawn Bartholomew. You're going to have some talent right there for sure. You lost Davion Harmon, but that you can make the case as addition by subtraction. So you're going to have some really talented squads right there. Now let's break down the rest of the league in a second. But first, got to tell you about Built Bar. Built Bar is how you get big, how you get strong. You look at N'Faly Dante, you look at some of these big guys, you look at Umar Ballo. You're probably seeing a guy that's consumed some Built Bar at some point in his life because it comes naturally and it comes thick. That's where you want to have it with Built Bar. That's the difference in everything that they have. And I think the next thing that you also look at, you wonder is, okay, well, do I have to work out? Yes, you have to work out. But the important thing, though, is getting the Built Bar in you, because without the Built Bar, the working out doesn't work. All right, be right back with you. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats. All right, now we're breaking down the rest of the conference right now. USC's in an interesting spot because you got 2 big men in Kajani Wright and then the another kid, I can't pronounce his name, so I'm not going to try. 5-star big men who should be able to replace Isaiah Mobley, Chavez Goodwin. But you also have a player in a Drew Peterson who could come back. And Drew Peterson, by the end of the year, was about as good a player as there was in the conference. And I think you're going to see him, if he does come back, Boogie Ellis, you're going to have some talented guys there. Andy Enfield has things rolling at this point where you generally know that it's going to be a pretty good squad, a pretty stacked squad. So that's certainly something to keep an eye on. Now, the rest of the roster, how it plays out, I don't know. But I think we're also at the point with Andy Enfield that you know that he's going to be able to put together a good product, and I would have no doubt in that. Now, one team that we need to make fun of before we leave is ASU. ASU is a team that I thought when Bobby Hurley took over, they were going to be good. I thought it was going to be a good program. And you know what? It hasn't been a good program. There's absolutely no consistency involved. And I think that's a big sign that Bobby Hurley just isn't that good of a coach. Now, he was giving coaching clinics today, but, that's all fine and dandy. But has anybody looked at ASU and said to somebody that's just a casual observer, man, that's a talented ASU, or that's a well-coached ASU team? No, you haven't, because you're watching Locked On Wildcats and you're a smart person and you know that they aren't well coached. So that, Bobby Hurley's fun for the conference, but I also don't think that Bobby Hurley is necessarily a difference maker. Okay, so there's the deal. Happy weekend to everybody out there. John Schuster will be back with me next week, but in the meantime, everybody stay safe. It's graduation weekend out there. I know a couple people graduating. I'm going to go say hello to them. Everybody be safe. Thanks for listening to Locked On Wildcats.